In California, a war over education is raging, and it's not just about test scores or budgets. It's about history, identity, and whose story gets told. The Ethnic Studies Model Curriculum, or ESMC, promised to bring the experiences of marginalized communities into classrooms statewide. But as it unfolds, two fierce debates collide. Supporters suggest it's being gutted, especially when it comes to Arab American studies. Others warn it's a recipe for division. From school boards to staff rooms, districts are carving their own paths, sometimes with cheers, sometimes with jeers. This is a story of clashing visions, playing out one classroom at a time. It started with a dream born in the 1960s and 70s, when radical students demanded ethnic studies, a lens on anti-colonial struggles and communities of color. In California, that became the ESMC, meant to cover African Americans, Chicano and Latino people, Native Americans and Asian Americans, including Arab Americans. The hope? Make it a graduation requirement for millions of kids. But the state's model is just that, a model. Districts can tweak it, ditch it, or build their own. And that's where the fault lines deepen. Are American schools cultivating activists instead of well-educated students? You decide. Jonathan Butcher from the Heritage Foundation sees a red flag. In 2023, he wrote that ethnic studies isn't neutral. It's a progressive push that foments racial resentment. He points to lessons framing America as oppressors versus oppressed, backed by a 2022 study showing systemic racism dominates these curriculums. For him, the ESMC's roots in the Third World Liberation Front prove it's more ideology than education. And when the first draft hit, covering Arab American immigration, the Nakba, and BDS, he wasn't surprised it sparked a firestorm. Israel advocacy groups like Jamina and Stand With Youth pounced. They called the draft anti-Semitic, arguing it glorified critics of Israel and sidelined Jewish voices. Stand With Youth mobilized teens to pen op-eds, linking the curriculum to radical regimes. Their demands: eliminate inaccurate Palestine content, add Jewish American lessons, and spotlight figures like Golda Meir and Bari Weiss. By December 2020, the state-caved controversial Arab American Studies was examined and sections eliminated, questionable Palestine references scrutinized, and Jewish-focused lessons were introduced. Take Santa Ana Unified. In May 2023, they doubled down on their Ethnic Studies World Geography course, keeping Palestine and Israel front and center. Despite pressure to cut it, they taught the conflict's history, displacement of Palestinians, the impact of Israeli settlements. It's a bold stand, defying groups like Stand With You's and CARE's mixed reactions. But the story took a turn. A California school that attempted to cover up its alleged anti-Semitic ethnic studies program is no longer permitted to teach the curriculum, according to a settlement reached between the school district and Jewish advocacy groups. The Santa Ana Unified School District agreed to settle a lawsuit brought by the Brandeis Center, the Anti-Defamation League, and the American Jewish Committee, who alleged that the district's ethnic studies courses were developed in secret and infused with anti-Semitism. By February 2025, Santa Ana ceased teaching those courses until redesigned with public input, disbanding its controversial steering committee and cutting ties with an anti-Semitic consultant. Over in Berkeley, the debate erupted into a firestorm. By March 2025, their curriculum on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict faced fierce criticism. Jewish students and families called it biased, oversimplifying events, misrepresenting Zionism with wrong data and loaded imagery. Berkeley side dug into the lessons. A ninth-grade unit asked students to analyze Israeli settlement maps, from plentiful to almost nothing. One slide read, and ponder, what does resistance mean to Palestinians? A federal complaint by the Brandeis Center and ADL in February 2024 alleged severe and widespread anti-Semitism, taunts about the Holocaust, with some uttering anti-Semitic statements like, "You have a big nose because you are a stupid Jew." Parents like Alana Perlman reported her son fleeing an art class after a teacher showed a fist punching through a Star of David. Teacher Christina Harb fired back, calling it a harassment tactic to silence Palestinian history. A March 6th board meeting saw 150 voices clash, some decrying censorship, others begging for safety. Then there's Castro Valley. As of April 2025, they're shaping their ethnic studies curriculum with the Liberated Ethnic Studies Model Curriculum, or LESMC. In January 2022, they signed a year-long deal with LESMC for teacher training and design, aiming for 2025 to 2026. Castro Valley claims its effort encompasses teachers, students, and locals collaborating to explore African American, Latino, Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander, and Arab American histories and resistance. Palestine's place. Will the finished product depict Israel as the aggressor and Palestinian resistance fighters as heroic? Still unfolding, details scarce. Critics like JNS.org brand LESMC anti-Semitic, noting its glossary skips anti-Semitism while listing other prejudices. A liberatory gamble Butcher fears fuels division. And in Oakland, the stakes hit closer to home. On December 6, 2023, teachers held a pro-Palestine teach-in backed by the Oakland Education Association. Over 100 signed up. How many joined? Unclear. They swapped regular lessons for an animated intro from Jewish Voice for Peace, slamming Israel's actions, and a YouTube video calling it an apartheid state for systemic oppression. Materials pushed genocide to describe Gaza and taught kids, from kindergarten up, that imperialism and capitalism drive global oppression. This, in a district where only 36% of students read at grade level and just 25% of Black and Latino kids do. What's happening in American public education when students can't read but know how to color a Palestinian flag? Now a new front opens in Sacramento. Assembly Bill 1468, a proposed California legislation backed by pro-Israel groups like the Jewish Public Affairs Committee of California, or JPAC, aims to standardize ethnic studies. It is the newest front in a years-long attack on the divisive ethnic studies curriculum in California. JPAC is pushing to eliminate teaching materials that delegitimize and demonize Israel, and would hand vetting to the State Board of Education's Instructional Quality Commission. The Department of Education is tasked with monitoring compliance annually as part of its oversight of state and federal programs and must report findings to the legislature. The bill builds on prior legislation, such as AB 101, 2021, which mandated ethnic studies as a high school graduation requirement starting in the 2025 to 2026 school year. AB 1468 has 29 Democratic co-sponsors and was referred to the Assembly Education Committee on March 13, 2025, where it remains pending as of now. Critics, as noted in related discussions, argue it may prioritize certain ethnic groups, African Americans, Latinos, Asian Americans, and Native Americans, over others, and could invite ideological bias. Meanwhile, the ripples reach beyond public schools. On January 25, 2025, calls emerge for the National Association of Independent Schools, or NAIS, to issue a public apology and correct the record after its response to remarks at the People of Color Conference by Dr. Suzanne Barakat and Professor Ruha Benjamin. Critics argue NAIS President Deborah Wilson misrepresented their comments as divisive and anti-Semitic, undermining the conference's equity and justice goals, and exposing the speakers to harassment. They accuse NAIS of buckling to pro-Israel pressure, threatening the POCC's legacy as a safe space for uncomfortable truths and social justice. The California Ethnic Studies curriculum, as some experts postulate, suggests this is an attempt to teach world history through a critical race theory lens, is now on hold. The message coming from some of the educators: they claim the ethnic studies divisiveness among different groups is like a virus percolating, as the ethnic studies curriculum suggests, is a field of study focused on critically examining the perspectives, cultures, and histories of marginalized people of color rather than a virus. A play on words, maybe? You decide. And then there's the Zinn Foundation, fueling the fire with progressive educational materials. Through its racial justice organizations, it offers lessons and resources from groups like Rethinking Schools, which hosts a Palestinian narrative on its site, and Teaching for Change. Together, they founded the Zinn Educational Project, or ZEP, built on Howard Zinn's controversial A People's History of the United States. Are these materials building social justice warriors instead of quality instructional materials? ZEP promises a progressive lens on history, aligned with views on racial justice and white supremacy. No public tally exists of school districts using these materials, but their website brims with demand, like a Long Beach, California, teacher pleading, "I am looking for more curriculum ideas that are culturally relevant and sustaining." These resources amplify the ethnic studies fight, feeding into the very debates AB 1468 seeks to tame. Butcher sees this patchwork as a crisis. Ethnic studies splintering kids into warring tribes. He pushes school choice, letting parents flee what he calls grievance-based lessons. Kiswani's camp sees a chance to reclaim their vision, betting districts like Castro Valley spread their liberatory model, echoing that 2020 course for teachers. A space to heal and resist. Two futures, one fighting to escape, the other to dig in. Disclaimer: most of the ethnic studies pictures throughout this video are pulled directly from the curriculum. Some have been altered slightly to accentuate the specific points. The stakes ripple beyond classrooms. Chimina wants Mizrahi Jews and Kurds in the mix. Stand With Us pushes Mayer and Weiss. The authors argue ethnic studies isn't about balance, it's about power and resistance. Across districts, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict tests the waters. Santa Ana dives in, then settles, Palo Alto wrestles, Berkeley battles, Castro Valley builds step by step, Oakland pivots to teach-ins. Variability rules, debate rages. And now, a new action emerges from parents and the public writ large. We urge the Department of Education and Justice Department to investigate the federal funds, whether direct or through California's share of federal dollars, and the flow to these districts. Parents want scrutiny. Does this curriculum clash with the Trump administration's push to dismantle DEI initiatives, seen as divisive identity politics? Many say yes. Does it violate Trump-era anti-Semitism policies, like the 2025 Anti-Semitism Executive Order, and the Trump 2019 Executive Order tying Title VI protections to the IHRA definition? From Berkeley's alleged incidents to Castro Valley's LESMC ties, the question looms: should federal oversight step in? Should federal funds halt to schools who defy the mandates? Yes. As we delve deeper into the complex narratives surrounding education and identity, it's crucial to understand the broader historical forces at play. The emergence of Palestinian nationalism, as explored in historical contexts, was significantly shaped by Russian influence, particularly during the Soviet era. The Soviet Union, seeking to counter Western influence in the Middle East, supported Arab nationalist movements, including the Palestinian cause, as part of its Cold War strategy. From the 1960s onward, the USSR provided political, military, and financial backing to the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, framing the Palestinian struggle as an anti-imperialist movement against Israel and its Western allies. This support not only fueled the geopolitical tensions in the region, but also influenced the narratives and educational perspectives we see today. Understanding these historical contexts is essential for comprehending the current debates over curriculum and the portrayal of ethnic Israel-Palestine studies. Should curriculum include examples of an accurate account on how the conflict narrative began? As we transition from the historical influences on Palestinian nationalism, it's important to recognize how these narratives continue to shape current events and educational frameworks. Today, the legacy of these historical forces is evident in the ongoing debates over curriculum content, particularly in how the Israel-Palestine conflict is portrayed in schools. Recent events have highlighted the complex interplay between historical narratives and modern-day politics. For instance, the recent peace agreements, shifts in geopolitical alliances, and ongoing conflicts all contribute to a dynamic educational landscape. Educators and policymakers are constantly grappling with how to present these topics in a manner that is both accurate and sensitive to diverse perspectives. The impact of these current events on education cannot be overstated. From textbooks to classroom discussions, the way we teach about the Israel-Palestine conflict has far-reaching implications for future generations. It shapes not only students' understanding of history, but also their perspectives on global politics and how they view Israel relations. As we delve into these current events, please be sure to turn on my notification bell, subscribe to @AndreaFreedom76 on X, and visit my YouTube channel at @AndreaSchaffer5645. Finally, God bless America. Thanks for watching. Disclaimer. As a reminder, most of the ethnic studies pictures throughout this video are pulled directly from the curriculum. Some have been altered slightly to accentuate the specific points.